Hey, how's it going? It's Sam Frost here from Easy PPC Tutorials, kicking off part 2 of this playlist or series on how to set up your first search advertising campaign on Google Ads. So what we're going to do, if you watched the end of the last one, you should be up to this point where you've basically created the first piece of the campaign, which is adding a new campaign, selecting the campaign type, and then filling in this box here. And what we're going to do now is hit continue and move through to the next piece, which is the basic campaign settings. So you can see here that we've selected a search campaign. Now we're going to give the campaign a name. So I'm going to name this campaign Digital Marketing Services. That's who I'm going after. As far as the campaign name structure goes, it kind of doesn't matter too much how you name your campaigns. It's just good to name it something you understand what it is. If you've got lots of campaigns, like you're doing campaigns for an e-commerce store or something like that, you're going to want to take a slightly different approach and probably have a more structured naming system. But for DIY advertisers, you might do a campaign or two. Really, it doesn't matter too much. Just call it what you want. This next piece here is really important. So we've got these different network options. Now, by default, Google does something naughty. They try and combine search advertising, which is what we're looking at here, that keyword-driven advertising, with display advertising. But they're two competing goals. They're two competing types of advertising. But by combining them in the same campaign, Google can artificially make it look like you're getting more clicks than you really want out of your campaign, because display advertising tends to generate a lot more clicks. So what we have to do here is really simple. We just untick this option. Now, I've linked a video in the video description for this particular lesson that goes to another one of my lessons where I talk about why this is so important in a bit more detail. But for now, just suffice it to say you want to deselect this option that's ticked by default. And what we also want to do for now is include Google Search Partners. But I will do another video just about whether you should actually leave this enabled or not, and how you assess whether it's worth using, and go into a bit more detail about it. But for now, leave Google Search Partners enabled. Now what we've got here is more settings. So if we wanted to set a start and end date, we could do that. So if I said, hey, I want my campaign to begin on the 1st of September and end on the 30th of September, then that's how I would do it. So that's a pretty straightforward system there. But we're going to have a start date of today, and we're going to have no end date. We want this to run all the time. Campaign URL options, this is for setting up tracking templates. I will talk about that in a different video. And dynamic search ads, we're not doing here either. This is a basic keyword-driven campaign setup. So the next piece is really, really important, and that's location targeting. So location targeting is crucial because you want your ads to show to people who are in the locations where they could actually buy from you or be your customer. But a lot of people mess this up and they wind up getting location targeting that's all over the show. And that's because Google puts a few fish hooks in their system, which basically are designed to make Google more money and make things harder for the DIY advertiser. At least that's the cynic in me saying that. So I will show you basically how the whole system works. So the first thing is, at a basic level, you can set location targeting here. So by default, Google's picked up that I'm doing this video from New Zealand. It set me with a location of New Zealand. But let's say that I only wanted to sell to people in Christchurch. So Christchurch is the city that I live in. So I can pick this piece here, Christchurch, Canterbury, New Zealand, and then I would hit target. So hit the target option, and now this is where I'm advertising to. And I can add multiple options. I might also say that I want to advertise to people in Wellington, which is another city in New Zealand, another region, sort of like a region and a city in one. And maybe I also want to go for people in Napier. It's another city in New Zealand. So I'd select Napier here. So that you can see these are the places you've targeted. Now what I'm actually going to do is go back and just select New Zealand because I want to go nationwide with this campaign, but at least this shows you how it works. And you can do country, city, region, or postcode. So you can actually get quite specific. So we might say that I only want to target, one particular city, or depending on where you are in the world, you might be able to target specific postcodes as well. So you can see here, like I've just started typing in some digits, and this is showing postcodes that are available all sorts of different parts of the world. If you want more flexibility, what you can do is open up advanced location here. This is where you can paste in locations in bulk, like cities, postcodes, countries. You can also go with a little bit more detail. So if we wanted to go Christchurch, New Zealand, once again, we would target that, and then it's going to show me what it's classing as Christchurch. So this is pretty much the city limits. But of course, I can see something here straight away that actually doesn't concern me, but from a location targeting perspective, as a local, Lots of people now live in this place called Rolleston, or Lincoln's another example, or Rangiora. This is all really, in many respects, part of greater Christchurch. So how would I get around this? Well, one way I could do it is I could actually come to radius targeting. So this is where I start with a location, whether it's my office or a street address or just a city or a country, and then I can put a radius around it. So I'm going to change to kilometers because we use metric measurement in New Zealand. I'm going to go 50 kilometers around Christchurch. So 50 kilometers around Christchurch. And now you can see that what it's doing is actually doing a radius, and really anywhere like here, Oxford, people come in from Oxford to Christchurch for work. They'll drive in from further north and further south than this for work, further west as well. So this is one way to do it quite effectively, and you can see that radius targeting. So if I was going after Christchurch only, this is what I would pick. But as I said, this campaign is nationwide, and you can add multiple radiuses as well. So we could do the same again around Napier. I gave that example before. And now what you can see is that there's multiple options. There's multiple targeting options. There'd be one for Napier and one for Christchurch as well. But we'll remove these for now. We'll cancel out of this, and we're just going to set our location as New Zealand. Now, I want to stress this piece here, the location options. There's multiple location options you can target with Google Ads, multiple ways you can do it. But one thing really that's crucial is getting this right, and that's making sure that unless you know what you're doing, you select this option here. The default option in Google Ads is to show your ads to people in or who show interest in your targeted location. Now, that can be problematic because Google doesn't really define what they class someone showing interest in your location actually means. So what this can lead to, if you're not careful, is it can lead to examples where you get or situations where you get all sorts of random countries or locations seeing your ads, even though you thought you were only targeting New Zealand. So one example I can think of, I did some work for a Canadian finance company. It was like a business finance company. And by default, they'd set their ads up themselves, and they'd done this option here. And when we look at location reports, and I've got some videos on this channel, what we actually found was that they were getting people from India and Pakistan and all sorts of places like that searching because Google thought they'd shown an interest in Canada and were interested in business finance in Canada, and they were getting clicks, and it was costing them money, and it was just a disaster, basically. So my view is generally, unless you're more of an advanced advertiser, to select this option here, which is a bit more restricted. It's saying, hey, your ads are going to show to people in or who are regularly in your targeted location. It used to only be showing your ad to people in your targeted locations, but Google's changed that now and removed a little bit of the precision and changed it to this option here. So it's not quite so good as it was, but it's still better than this first option if you don't really understand the way the targeting system works. And remember as well that you can exclude locations. So you can actually exclude a location if you wanted. So let's say I want to target all of New Zealand except for Southland, which is one of the more remote areas of the country. I would just search it, exclude it, and now you can see here that I've basically done location targeting with exclusions. Now, sometimes depending on how you enter things, what Google will do, which is annoying, is reset the targeted location. So what I want to say here is that I want to target New Zealand. So I'm going to target New Zealand, but I want to exclude Southland. So you can see that here now. So targeted New Zealand, excluded Southland, targeting people in or regularly in that targeted location, and excluding people in or who show interest in the excluded location. And you can once again change that to exclude people completely as well, rather than people who show an interest in. So yeah, that's how location targeting works. In the next video, we'll talk a bit more about more settings. So we'll talk about languages, we'll talk about audiences, and we'll talk about budget and bidding in a video after that. So hopefully you find that useful. For now, think about the locations you want to target, and then we'll continue on. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.